everybody, it's the Alco Diesel Guy with my annual trip to the Albany Great Train Extravaganza. Let's get right to it. With the first table here, we have some standard gauge Lionel, it appears, as well as some smaller stuff, all kind of mixed in there. All this, again, is pre-war. This stuff is getting rarer and rarer, but I keep seeing it. I think there's a lot of repros out there. Some HO scale stuff right over here, kind of scattered about it. With some N scale items as well, which I took a brief look at. Moving on to this table over here, we have some more toy-like items, the sort of toy cars again. That's again been becoming very popular at these train shows. A lot of die-cast toy cars being sold. And what do we have here? We've got more we got some Thomas the Tank Engine stuff here. The wooden Brio railroad system. I haven't seen those actually in a while. They're still pretty popular. A lot of Brio trains. They're starting to gain popularity, I guess, because electric trains technically aren't considered toys anymore. This next part of the table had a lot of Railroadiana memorabilia, I should say, and again some more Lionel accessories, a few HO scale things, some O scale stuff, kind of all mixed together at this particular table. Nothing really spoke to me here. It was a lot of older used stuff. Again, I'm not an O scale guy, although it did attract my attention. I had one O scale train set as a kid, and that was it. This again was HO scale kits, a bunch of old Athearn kits mixed in with a few other kit brands. I think there were some Stewart Hobbies kits there too, and some Stewart Hobbies F7 units. This box in the back was interesting. It held sort of what appeared to be a lifelike limited edition F unit. And again, more HO scale stuff, kind of all scattered around. Nothing really spoke to me here. More memorabilia at this table. I kind of walked right past it because I was kind of pressed for time on this whole trip. Moving on again, we have some Lionel O scale things and O scale stuff in general over here at this table. Mainly post-World War II items, quite a bit of it. Not that Lionel has ever not been popular, but it seems like it's really getting a surge in popularity at train shows at this time. I see more and more of that stuff used available. Moving on to this table over here, this is sort of a light demonstration of lit-up cars and other such accessories for your model railroad display railroad layout, etc. Nothing here really spoke to me again, although it was tempting. I have to admit I would love to have that kind of stuff put in my layout myself, but because I tend to like to move my track plans around, I still haven't decided how I want my main N-scale layout. I wasn't really interested at that point. Now, if this next table looks strangely familiar, it should, as it was in the previous 2023 Albany train show I visited more recently. I ended up buying a bunch of older freight cars with Rapido couplers from here. Didn't end up getting any locomotives because, unlike last year, and I'm kicking myself again for this, there were no Rapido-equipped locomotives here. That is to say, Rapido coupler-equipped locomotives here. With my recent interest in vintage N-scale equipment, and of course the need to have engines that can pull it with Rapido couplers, mainly because of those Bachmann Rapido coupler-equipped coaches. Again, I couldn't find any Rapido coupler-equipped locomotives here, so I didn't end up buying much except for a few freight cars. Again, the same selection of passenger cars that were at the last show were there, and a few other niceties kind of scattered around.
Or 3 for $15. Any train stations, I wonder.
While I wouldn't buy any locomotives and just a few freight cars in terms of rolling stock purchases from this particular vendor, I would end up buying one used train station to use on my Christmas N-scale layout. And as you can see, while I wouldn't end up buying any locomotives this particular time from this particular vendor, there was a pretty good selection of them here, to put it mildly. This next table had the obligatory, required, for a train show at least, selection of Athearn Blue Box kits, as well as some old Stewart kits, as well as a couple of Bowser O-scale products. There were also some Bowser and Rapido items also kind of put in this sort of smorgasbord of products they had there, and a few, again, O-scale Bowser products, all kind of mixed in there. Over at this next table, we had some older HO-scale horn-hook coupler-equipped box cars, as well as some older Atlas box cars, rolling stock, etc., all kind of piled together. Nothing, again, really spoke to me. Admittedly, I'm not so much into HO scale currently. That may change, but currently it's just not tugging my rug. There were also some Athearn trailer loads for flat cars. This next table had a lot of manuals and general paperwork for working on older locomotives and sort of guides. Pretty cool to find this stuff. Guess it comes in handy if you're looking for a vintage part. They also had some old train videos there stacked up, and one or two old power packs. Again, kind of random stuff, kind of just all looped together. This next table had a good smorgasbord, if you will, of different things, including some vintage lifelike coaches, and vintage HO scale things. And then as we went further along here, as we see, we go into vintage O scale items like the red and silver Santa Fe, and of course the obligatory again O scale products. These are again pre-war O scale. Again, there's quite a market for them. Here's that nice little set here. I believe that was an Ive set if I remember correctly. This next table was kind of unusual in that it was actually a mini layout display in the middle of all these sort of trains being offered for sale. In this case, this was Lego. Still nonetheless interesting to look at, just kind of randomly kind of thrown in there. This next table had a good mix of HO scale stuff as well as some Kato items as we see. Just kind of all over the place. It had some, again, Atlas rolling stock, some kits kind of all put together. It also had some ready-to-run Atherin items as well. This next table again seems to take these train shows in a new direction they seem to be headed into, with a lot of model trucks for sale. Again, I guess really nice details for your layout. I'm assuming that's what the allure to this is. But also I know there are quite a few diecast car collectors that are getting back into that. Hot Wheels itself seems to have gotten a huge resurgence, and actually more and more adults pulling out their old collections and actually increasing their collections. This next table should look very familiar to any of you who saw my last year's Great Train Extravaganza Albany video, as it was featured in that video, as well as the most recent Albany Train show video that I did. Again, a lot of N-scale stuff. I ended up buying a few freight cars off this table, not much else. Again, nothing in the locomotives really spoke to me. I was looking for a specific type of locomotive, although in retrospect, I wish I had had a little bit more of an open mind, but I was quite tired. Again, I had just come off the night shift and was sort of on my after-work sort of hours. And if this table looks somewhat familiar, it should. It has the exact same New York City train model, I believe it was on there from the previous show in Albany, as well as that Marx model of the, I believe that is the M10,000.
This is a Marx set, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure if no, it's not the Diograph, it's a similar model. We got a battery-operated train.
And coming up on this table is some more pre-war Lionel O gauge. Quite a bit of that actually at the show, as well as some accessories to go along with it. I kind of just skimmed past that. Again, I don't operate O gauge, so I only have so much interest in it. Still was cool to find it nonetheless. And some random O gauge, HO gauge models thrown in there, I think. Then there was this next display with yet more O gauge stuff. Seems like, again, this was sort of a recurring theme at this particular train show. These, again, appear to be pre-war O gauge things. Again, accessories for O gauge. Then next, there's another part of this hobby that seems to be exploding, the Lego sort of segment. This table had a lot of Lego things available. Again, Lego trains themselves seem to be coming really into vogue as a model sort of train hobby in itself. Pretty cool how you can build them out of just bricks and etc. So it really is cool how all that works together. And so I guess it makes perfect sense for them to be at this show. Then over here we have some more O-scale stuff. Kind of a mix of Lionel, Atlas, and Rail King, all kind of smorgasbord together. Again, all O-scale, more modern things instead of the other stuff that we saw before, which was all pre-war O-gauge. There was also that cool operating cattle car on the side. That's a pretty rare accessory, which is actually, yeah, post-war, but pretty old and kind of hard to come by. I think it actually was reproed, don't quote me on that. Moving along further in this table, we see some pre-war O-scale from Lionel again, I believe that is. That Banker's sort of bipolar set. Those are very popular from what I can tell. And then some randomly mixed in items, such as that N-scale train set there. I took a good look at that, and if I remember correctly, the price is kind of out of control. There was also a Bachmann DeWitt Clinton set right below it. A few obligatory AHM models next to it. Here again at this table we had a wide assortment yet again of more die-cast metal cars. These are sort of unbranded, the larger ones, not quite Hot Wheels size. And then next to that we had several Hot Wheels cars of sort of newer and older vintages. It's amazing to see how much these things have sort of come back into vogue right now in terms of being collectible. Here's yet another table with some more Hot Wheels cars, as well as some Thomas the Tank Engine items. I'm glad to see that this appears to be a very strong part of the market still, and there's now actually a market for vintage Thomas the Tank Engine trains. I'm starting to date myself. I remember when this stuff was new. And here we had yet another table of sort of random HO scale stuff, a few buildings and some rolling stock items and some accessories. Then there was this table with these vintage toy dump trucks. And here in that same section were yet more die-cast metal cars. They really seem to be coming on these days, as well as one or two random Hess items thrown in there. There are also a whole bunch of vintage die-cast metal trucks still in their original packaging. I'm not sure if those are repros, but nonetheless still pretty cool to see them. And again, here's some more random Hess stuff kind of also buried in with that. Again, these Hess trucks seem to have really developed a cult collection status. I've never been that hardcore into them, although as a kid I always got one for Christmas. I ought to look into that, I guess. Here, once again, a table with more and more random O-scale stuff. Everything from Rail King to Lion-O kind of all bundled together here. This next table over here really caught my eye as it had some vintage N-scale products there. I took a good look at them but didn't find anything that really spoke to me. Although, again, it was cool to see these sort of vintage trains that you can normally only see in very specific stores kind of out there on display to look at.
These new, or I'm assuming they're new.
I can't tell you honestly. I think they are, but I'm not positive.
Is it ice skating?
This next table I really wish I had taken a closer look at, as it turns out they had, in addition to the HO scale stuff we see here, they had a lot of vintage Bachmann N-scale items I would have probably liked in retrospect had I realized how much I was going to utilize them on this layout, but it looks like I kind of glossed over it and didn't notice it. This table also featured a lot of vintage N-scale rolling stock, including these vintage locomotives, that Santa Fe F unit and the RS1 there. There were also a bunch of random N-scale locomotives with repeato couplers. Prices were kind of high, so I kind of stayed away from them. Also, I wasn't sure how easy or difficult those would be to convert. Now, here's something that almost caused me to have a serious coronary just looking at it. As I look at this box very carefully here, there is a specific price tag on it. And it says very clearly the whole box is $25. And those coaches, as many of you will know from watching my upcoming video, well, if you haven't seen it yet, I should say, on the actual N-scale layout I put up for this Christmas, those are the coaches I've been trying to get after. So seeing that price, I thought, oh, what a great deal. But like an idiot I am, and being half asleep, which I blame myself for, I basically decided to go back and offer money for it, and sure enough, the guy said, oh, no, this is not $25. It's actually $125 for the box. So, yeah. Anyway, I wound up coming back and cutting a deal with the guy to buy this for a little bit less money than what he initially wanted. I think I got it all the way down to $50 plus a few other items. This next table was pretty cool. It featured a sort of mini operating diorama / module layout. It's pretty cool what you can do with a small space of layout, as long as you don't mind not being able to run the train continuously, though it's having to move back and forth on a siding. That's essentially what this was. And really, I have to say, really cool and kind of interesting to watch. Switching it, I have to admit, is something that has caught my attention in recent years in operating model trains. I used to just like watching them go around in circles, but I guess since the last 10-15 years, I've gotten more into doing switching work as well as that on top of it. And I have to admit, it's a lot of fun once you start getting the hang of doing it. This next table here had a bunch of random vintage buildings for HO scale as well as accessories for HO scale. Followed up by yet another table with some random scenery items as well as some random box cars and other rolling stock for HO scale. This next table here had some books on railroads and vintage books, etc.
Used railroad books. Used railroad books.
The follow-up table over here had some more modern railroad edition books, sort of the Morning Sun books, which basically cover, for those of you not familiar, sort of a picture and color view of vintage railroads, fallen flags, etc. This next section over here was the DVD section, and unlike most other times, I didn't actually buy any DVDs on this trip. I was kind of focused on the rolling stock. It just didn't seem to register to me. Here's another table with the obligatory Woodland Scenics detailing products and electrical products alike. It's kind of put together up here, as well as some Woodland Scenics sort of pre-built homes, houses, buildings, etc. for N scale and HO kind of just mixed together there. Then as we move on here, we have some more N scale products at this next table, as well as N scale Kato track and some nice locomotives. This next table featured a lot of parts for O-scale railroad equipment, mainly rolling stock, as well as a few pieces of O-scale rolling stock. Finishing up with a few more vintage Lionel locomotives and rolling stock. Looks like some pre-war stuff. This next table had a nice selection of N-scale equipment, brand new stuff mainly, including these heavyweight Microtrains coaches, which I took a good long look at but didn't end up buying. Plenty of freight cars, again, newer stuff all over here, and a few accessories. Very good selection in general, I have to say, though. On the other side, there were some HO scale, and just beyond the N-scale stuff was some HO scale items, mainly Bowser, as well as Atlas rolling stock freight cars, etc. As well as the usual obligatory, as I call them, HO scale Bachmann train sets thrown in just for fun. There are also some Athearn rolling stock pieces as well, ready to run jobs. And even some Z-scale rolling stock, something you really don't see much of pretty much anywhere. Z-scale really hasn't caught on in the U.S. like it has in other countries. This next display had a bunch of random HO scale equipment, including one Proto 1000 piece of rolling stock, which are getting rarer and rarer as the time goes on here. You see less and less of them at train shows anywhere. The next table had even more O-scale equipment, including these two Alco PAs, which of course caught my eye, despite the fact that I would never have room for them, as I have no room to build an O-scale layout. And of course there was a bunch of random O-scale locomotives. I think these were mainly post-war locomotives, and maybe two pre-wars mixed in or so. I couldn't quite tell. I think they were mostly post-war units. There were also a few pieces of rolling stock mixed in there, as well as that unloading conveyor belt. which is an old accessory from the 1950s or so. And just beyond this point, there was, again, a few more Bachmann train sets, again from the modern era, in HO scale. Brand new. As well as this really cool vintage Back to the Future Knight Rider slot car set on the side there. The next table had yet more Lionel O scale. A few interesting specimens here on that shelf on the back. As you can see, there was an Alco FA painted in D&H, which is completely realistic. The only thing that came close was an FPA4 for a scenic railroad several years later, long after this post-war locomotive was introduced in the 50s. And this table also had several pieces of Lionel rolling stock on both sides of it. This next table had a good mix of O scale as well as HO scale parts. Mainly vintage. I saw a few Atlas 210 twin switches in here as well. And again, a bunch of scenery decorations look like mainly for O scale sort of animals, as you see on the right there. Again, here are those sort of random boxcars thrown in. Beyond this, yet more vintage Lionel. Post-war again. Bunch of rolling stock and some tracks. And some pre-war actually mixed in over here as we go further along. This next table had more of the same, a few vintage 80s era Bachmann HO scale locomotives and some vintage Lionel, looks like post-war again from the 50s. Mixed in with some more modern pieces of O scale stock from Williams, as well as a few Rail King items of rolling stock. This part of the table went into N scale and then seemed to switch back to HO scale and then back to O scale again. It was kind of all randomly put together. So you can see the N scale products right there in their glass cases. Didn't take much of a look here, just wasn't really interested. They were kind of very random. There were also some die-cast metal trucks up here and one or two minor scenery items as well as rolling stock mixed in. Continuing further on, this next table had some vintage AHM rolling stock as well as some nice HO scale buildings. And these two little gems, which snuck into my vision at this point, two Alco PAs, again from Atherton, Blue Box era. These look to be the earlier truck variant of that particular locomotive. Very popular engines, especially in the Albany area. You'll find a lot of these for sale at Albany train shows. Just shows you how many of these were mass-produced back in the day. There's also that random Tyco locomotive sitting right there mixed in, as you can see. We also see two vintage Penn Central locomotives, an SW Series EMD as well as an RS1 that looks like right over there. This next vendor I usually buy from every time I'm at the train show. He's got a lot of N-scale equipment here again. And I would end up buying a few pieces off from this time. Again, I plan to do a separate haul video. Look out for that coming in the future. Sorry I don't have any more footage of this particular vendor, but I just seem to have lost it. I know I shot it, but it's just not there. Here's that table just beyond that, mainly HO scale equipment again, a few HAM things, as well as some Bachmann HO locomotives. Mainly this stuff was from the 70s and 80s. This next table featured Railroadiana as well as memorabilia. Kind of just randomly spread here some silver coins, etc. Other nice little tokens, memento, Chotsky items. Next up, we have some more vintage HO scale equipment. These look to be older Stewart kits, sort of randomly boxed, and a few Atlas pieces of equipment in rolling stock, just kind of randomly stacked here. And this one Union Pacific coach, which caught my eye, although I ended up not buying it. And this interesting Lionel piece there, that's actually not a powered locomotive. It's the equivalent of a push toy, sort of a toy car, you might add. It's done in the form of a locomotive. There's also a random AHM locomotive on the bottom over there. This next table had yet more vintage Lionel stuff post-war again. The ZW Transformer and an even, I think, earlier style basic power pack right there. I think that was an Alco PA to the right there, and a few vintage accessories. And below that, we can see some more vintage accessories, rolling stock, etc. Again, that was seemingly, again, a theme at this train show. O-scale, again, is still very popular here in the U.S., especially the Lionel stuff. Over here, there was a little HO scale mixed in with that, more vintage equipment again, as well as a newer stock Bachmann steam locomotive and this very attractive Power Command MRC transformer, which I had for years myself, so that definitely drew my attention to it. And again, more kits here, some more rolling stock Athearn Blue Box kits and a few other items, as well as a few Athearn Ready to Run kits, and some more vintage rolling stock sitting below the table again, and again, some more vintage HO scale locomotives, I believe those were. Over here, some more vintage, again, Lionel stuff. Again, this looks like post-war. More accessories kind of bundled in with it. This next table had some more random HO scale equipment, including some Proto 2000 stuff. Later generation, just before Walters or just after Walters took them over. This next table over here was a bit of a doozy. It had plenty of HO scale kits from Stewart, as well as some Blue Box kits kind of mixed in, and a few other random hobby companies, all boxed ready to sell, as well as some other random equipment tossed in there, as well as some Athearn Ready to Run. This particular diorama even caught my father's attention. It was really cool. It's a little switching layout. It was actually operating on relays automatically. Very nicely detailed. And very basic. Again, it just shows you what you can do in even a small amount of space with even HO scale if you're very careful. Again, this is just a simple train running back and forth on a switch.
Yep, it's automatic. It goes back and forth. You didn't realize it, did you? It's got some nice graphics, and you look at the lights in the city. See, it's dragging it back. It's got the relay. That's what I saw. That's why I was filming it so extensively. It's really nice.
This next was sort of a historic informational sort of display showing some historic parts of the region. I believe this is also a model outfit, if I remember correctly. One of them was actually making models of these historic places and offering them to sort of build to order. And this is another unique feature of this train show, a test track to test your purchase out. They had one from every scale, if I remember correctly. And they offered this for free to all people attending the train show.
That's why I keep stopping.
This next table featured a variety of railroad lanterns. These are becoming more collectible again. They're just gaining in popularity, going back into vogue, if you will. This next table had some more Brio Thomas the Tank Engine items. Again, these are gaining in popularity again, and ironically enough, becoming vintage now. This next table had, again, a mixture of more Lionel items, as well as some more Athearn Blue Box and other HO scale items kind of all put together. And now we come to the main layout section of the particular trade show. There are a few more vendors outside the egg as this particular section of the building is known as. Right now we'll focus on these.
Oh, I need a see-through plastic and a couple of house decorations.
Let me get this, guys. Triple track main line.
Train's running opposite.
Yep.
The other one is running in the middle.
Yep, he's got a triple track main line. Yep.
It's the only scale train you can use short safety, right?
He's got a triple track main line. We're running 2 alcove PAs here. Those look like Katos.
See, that one is the middle one is the one that does the egg.
Yeah, it does all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, look at that. It's gonna cross now into the center.
And then it comes back again.
I don't even know how you're going to even see that.
Oh, the stupid thing zoomed out.
Next time you go to a hobby shop, if you ever do get around to one, ask them what you want to see. We live here in Daylight. Next time you go to a hobby shop, ask them to show you the microphone. It's small.
Yep.
Train going by.
We'll have to get another one with healthy restaurants. We're familiar.
Flying saucer. Market landed at the petitions convention before this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Great Train Extravaganza, brought to you by the House and Furniture Division of the National Auto Railroad Association. Our next 3 raffles are Dan Lewicki, Len Levy, and Keith Survival. Please come to the head table to win your prize.
That's gonna go all the way through. Yep. This is a team only. I can't go through here. It's staff only. It's their stuff there. Look, it's got all the stuff in here. Is it okay to come through here? Yeah. Oh, thanks.
I just didn't want to get in your way. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just trying to figure.
Oh, it's one of those new. Oh, you got the new throttle. That's the new super throttle. Oh yeah.
DD20.
Yep.
602.
Yeah, I'm still running the 402s. Yeah, the old school dot matrix jobs. And bought them 2 years ago. Now I already feel like I got an antique. Oh, pardon me. I'm sorry.
You have to have a power system over there. The power's on the No. Well, we built the box, but.
That a Bachmann RS3?
That is.
Yep. Oh yeah, they're troublemakers. Sounds like you got dirty wheel wipers on that. Yeah, that's what mine does.
The only part that's tough, it works better with the smaller trains.
Oh, is that the new Rapido turbo train?
Yep. Haven't fully tested it yet, so just trying to break it in slowly. And when I consisted both locomotives, they both were fighting each other. So I'm going to have to play with that. Get that not to fight each other.
Yep. That's why I like on the Digitrax controllers. You can at least tell each engine, you go this way, you go that way. Okay, now go together. The only problem is you can't speed match directly with it. That's the only drawback on that. Here's New York N track again. Albany, New York N track. Let's go with zoom in. Yeah, quadruple track main line. But I don't have that straight out. And do that. You okay, Dan? Okay. Okay. Let me know if you get into trouble. I mean, if you don't feel well. Okay. Yep. I'm gonna try one more time on that locomotive and a few other things because I'm coming home empty-handed. I need more torpedo coupler engines, so I may have to bite the bullet on one of them. What? Okay. We're going to try and get this. I may also try to get more of those box cars that they had. I'm debating that. Or if they have tank cars. What's wrong? Oh, definitely. YouTube?
She didn't say how much, but she did say it was a ridiculous amount. That's a possibility. And the thing is, I've known her where. Yeah, I've over a decade. She's not your girlfriend? Huh? Not your girlfriend? Nah. It's complicated. Not even that. Did you want it? Initially, yes. But she was with somebody at the time, so I'm like, I don't want that drama. But over the years, I got to the point of going like, we would probably drive each other nuts. She doesn't work every year? Huh? Does she work? Yes. And the thing is, I have seen her over the years basically used by boyfriends, financially.
You're in the middle. Oh, here you go. Here's a small one. Look at this small one. Look at these.
That's why yesterday,
Oh, they both did.
I don't see that. Yeah, my youngest is like 44 years old. He's in the video.
Oh, well, they're both in the video. It's like, they're both getting kind of like, including the big organ and the
gonna go around the other circle on the other corner before he even through this corner. See, look, see, he's going around the corner.
Whoa, he's not even around this corner.
Capital Region Model Railroad Club.
I love the guy who's got that. I'm going to stop singing. Engineer story.
And then he spoils that.
That's when it gets worse. It just keeps progressively getting worse every time, too.
I mean, I just let it go. I let him have his fun.
I just nodded yes.
Because it's hilarious.
I had Teacher on Facebook for exactly 1 week before he started losing his shit over his like 14th wife. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude?
Wait, what the 14th wives?
I don't know, man. He's literally no, it's just him on Facebook complaining about how like 80% of his paychecks go to child support. I'm like, dude, stop.
Hollywood's still there? Okay. He was actually good man. Don't be all bashful. Again, good teacher. It's written that. No way.
Here, oh. How do you need traction?
the sound of the engine is the start until you start looking at things. He knows what I'm talking about. I don't, but he does. Honestly, I think Atlas did a phenomenal job with the S2s and S4s.
Yeah.
I got an engine with sound and DCC for $120.
Oh wow!
I don't think you can beat that.
I don't think I've ever seen anything close to
It
that.
was one of the sales around Thanksgiving from either Train World or what's the N-Scale something? No, not N-Scale Supply. What's the Klein? MD Klein stuff?
Yeah.
Well, train stuff.
That's the one.
Is that the new?
Yes.
It's an S2 or S4.
Yep.
I mean, S4 is it?
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like a two. It sounds like a two. Pardon me, a 539. Yeah.
Ford.
Yep. So it's a 539. Yeah. Prime mover.
You did a nice job on that.
Yep.
Yep.
I can't believe that speed. I can hear that.
And it's geared for switchers. So if you turn it all the way up, you're only going to do like 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, that should be.
Yep.
All right.
I may have to look into getting myself one of those.
And it does pull pretty well. The shell and the frame are all metal. So it's a die-cast shell. The hood is plastic. The cab is plastic. What I meant to say. I'm sorry, sir.
I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You got to go? Okay.
Thanks, Kyle.
See you next Sunday.
No.
Wednesday the 27th is the next open house. Because Sunday's on Christmas this year.
No, it's Monday.
Monday, yeah. But Wednesday the 27th.
It's the Wednesday after Christmas.
Now we get to some of the tables that were placed outside the actual location of the egg. This particular one added selection again of yet more, and again, I can't believe how much of this stuff was there. Lionel, again, mainly I think this was post-war stuff. A lot of HO scale stuff kind of mixed in as well. See a whole bunch of these lifelike steamers. I actually recognize those little Joes. I had one or two of those back in the day, and a bunch of other random engines thrown in, and some HO scale accessories. Some old Transformer / speed controllers, and some freight cars, and of course the obligatory Atherin blue box kits. Plenty of those here. And most notably, as we get along over here, some N scales items, which I wasn't expecting to find.
I was looking for them. Yep, right there.
These
Yep.
are the things?
Yep, the railroad crossing signals.
Oh, the signals.
Yep,
Okay.
they have them. So I'm interested in that.
All right, so go ahead.
I would end up buying those small N-scale figures as well as the crossing gates to add to my Christmas layout. Exactly what I was looking for, and the price I negotiated was ridiculously inexpensive.
It says 89. I'm assuming that's 89 cents, not $89. This doesn't even have a price. I would assume that's not $89, right? I'm assuming 89 cents.
I don't know. There's no price.
Next, outside the actual egg building itself, was the actual Lego model railroad layout set up here. This is pretty unique how Lego, again, is being integrated into the hobby, and it's really kind of perfect if you think about it, because you can literally assemble this with bricks that click together, and the fact that they can actually be turned into trains. It's really kind of the ultimate thing to a certain extent, I guess, in that regard, especially how easy it is to assemble these buildings, and how many people pretty much are familiar with Lego bricks. I had them as a kid. I'm sure many people watching this film had them. And the idea that you can combine them now with a railroad layout, you could in the past, but the idea that this is now being treated to an actual extension of the model railroad hobby in general is really unique.
I see. It's on a relay. It's all automatic. This is all automatic. It's on a relay. Nice little representation of an S-series switcher. Oh, I didn't go to this area here too.
Coming up next is a point-to-point layout that was set out again outside the egg itself. This again is not a circular loop, but the type of layout where the train actually runs to one end and has to be switched around to the opposite direction. Interesting switching line set up here. Very nicely detailed. Again, a modular layout.
Pardon me, sorry. You see the difference on this layout, Dad? This is a point-to-point. It's not a loop, whereas the others were all loops. You okay? Look at the cows, Dad. They even have the cows in the. Look at the cows. They even have the cows in the pasture. Oh. This is literally the end of the line.
Yeah, I know, but it's a nice way. It's a way.
I've seen all different kinds. Thing where it's used to have cross ties at the end of it. Well, if you're going fast enough.
This particular table is one of the first outside. Had a lot of railroad memorabilia, china, and even a few models put here. That Broadway Limited steamer, Blue Line steamer. And again, a lot of random things, even these old keys, which skeleton-style keys. My father was interested and was pretty surprised that those were collectible, as he had some, not from actual trains, but he was shocked to find that those were collectible, and I mentioned to him that, yeah, this is actually becoming a thing now, apparently.
They unlock the coaches, they're old school coaches, locks.
This is yet another table with vintage HO scale stuff. A lot of sort of vintage Bachmann items here, as well as Atheron's blue box items and Tycho items all put together. And some O scale as well, just for good measure. And further down the same table, there was even some N scale items kind of thrown in there for good measure. Didn't end up getting any of it, but I just thought it was interesting how it was all kind of arranged in there. And a few other random items kind of put there, including some O-gauge track, as well as a vintage American Flyer set. Right there with an Alco PA on the front. One of the things American Flyer was known for back in the day was their model of the Alco PA.
I'm curious what the power pack is going for. No price, must be free. No, there it is. No, tested good. Because I do need a power pack to test John's locomotive. That's what I've been looking for. I don't know how much that is, though. That's what I'm just saying. I'm right behind you. LGB. Oh wow, we didn't even get here yet, did we? Is you okay, Dad? Yeah. Because I'm not stopping, as you know.
Go ahead and do it.
Uh-oh. Pump your brakes, Dad. These are DCC equipped, though. Yep, these are DCC and sound equipped. Well, it's 124, but mind you, that is DCC plus sound.
As is usual, one of the local hobby shops in the Albany, New York area set up shop right here outside the convention itself. These, again, were new items for sale. I was, of course, attracted to the NCL section with these accessories and these locomotives. I saw a few things that caught my eye, but the prices seemed a little on the high side. I seen them cheaper. They weren't abundantly expensive, but to be honest, my head wasn't really in getting a sound-equipped locomotive. Maybe it should have been, but I just wasn't into it at that moment. This particular vendor and hobby shop that was here, in addition to the good selection of N-scale stuff, also had plenty of HO scale items. And of course, Lionel O scale / O gauge, I should say. See if I can get a deal because we're not going to get. There was also this table toward the front of the actual exhibition area, which had everything from Legos to sort of World War II models, the hand-assembled type. And again, there was yet another more Lego model that were assembled at this particular train show. Again, Lego really seems to have picked up interest in terms of being a model railroad type commodity, if you will. And with that, that's going to conclude this video as we've gone through most of the tables at this actual train show. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If not, thumbs down. Please like and subscribe. And as always, keep the middle side down.
It's only from